Some skeptics claim that the following passage from the Bible condones rape.
If a man happens to meet a virgin who is not pledged to be married, and rapes her, and they are discovered, he shall pay her father 50 shekels of silver. He must marry the young woman, for he has violated her. He can never divorce her as long as he lives.
There are 2 points to note here. First, the passage nowhere sanctions, condones or even approves of rape. This is simply a gross misreading of the text. The injunction is intended to instruct the Israelites on how to deal with and address a rape situation, if and when it occurs. Second, by taking a careful look at the context, and consulting the original languages of the scriptures, a strong case can be made that this citation is not even addressing a rape case at all. We must remember that the Bible was not written in English. The Old Testament was written in Hebrew, with parts of it being written in Aramaic. The New Testament was written in Koine or Common Greek. This means that if we want to know whether an English translation has faithfully and accurately translated the inspired author's intended meaning, we must turn to the original language of the sacred text. Once this is done, it will become quite apparent that the Holy Bible does not sanction that a rapist marry his victim. With this just said, the word, which the NIV translates as rape, comes from 2 Hebrew words, tafuz and shakab. Here are the meanings listed by the Brown Driver Briggs Hebrew Lexicon in reference to these 2 words. Tafuz. To catch, handle, lay hold, take hold of, seize, wield. Ko. To lay hold of, seize, arrest, catch. To grasp in order to wield, use skillfully. Nifl. To be seized, be arrested, be caught, be taken, captured. Peel. To catch, grasp with the hands. AV take 27. Taken 12. Handle 8. Hold 8. Catch 4. Surprise 2. Miscellaneous 465. Here is one example of how this word is used.
The priests did not ask, "Where is the Lord?" Those who deal with the law did not know me. The leaders rebelled against me. The prophets prophesied by Baal, following worthless idols.
Shakab. To lie down. Ko. To lie down, lie on. To lodge. To lie of sexual relations. To lie down in death. To rest, relax, fig. Nifl. To be lain with sexually. Pool. To be lain with sexually. Hifl. To make to lie down. Hafel. To be laid. AVLI 106. Sleep 48. Lie down 43. Rest 3. Lean 2. Miscellaneous 10. Brown Driver Briggs demonstrates, the word can be used in relation to sexual intercourse as well as for other things. The following examples help demonstrate that shakab does not necessarily imply a forced sexual act.
And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, If any man's wife go aside and commit a trespass against him, and a man lie with her carnally, and it be hid from the eyes of her husband, and be kept close, and she be defiled, and there be no witness against her, neither she be taken with the manner.
Here, the word shakab refers to a voluntary sexual act between 2 consenting parties, in this case to a woman who voluntarily chooses to commit adultery. It is clear that the woman in question was not forced into having sex.
Also, when a woman lies with a man and there is an emission of semen, they shall bathe in water, and be unclean until evening.
These examples clearly demonstrate that these terms do not, in and of themselves, necessarily imply that rape is in view. This is reflected in the way Deuteronomy 22 has been translated by the following translations. If a man find a damsel that is a virgin, which is not betrothed, and lay hold on her, and lie with her, and they be found. If a man find a damsel that is a virgin, who is not espoused, and taking her, lie with her, and the matter come to judgment. If a man shall find a damsel that is a virgin, who is not betrothed, and lay hold on her, and lie with her, and they be found. If a man find a lady who is a virgin, who is not pledged to be married, and lay hold on her, and lie with her, and they be found. When a man findeth a damsel, a virgin who is not betrothed, and hath caught her, and lain with her, and they have been found. When a man findeth a damsel that is a virgin who is not betrothed, and layeth hold of her and lieth with her, and they are found. If a man find a damsel that is a virgin, that is not betrothed, and lay hold on her, and lie with her, and they be found. If a man find a damsel, who is a virgin who is not betrothed, and lay hold on her and lie with her, and they be found. If a man find a damsel, a virgin, who is not betrothed, and lay hold on her, and lie with her, and they be found. If a man meets a virgin who is not betrothed, and seizes her and lies with her, and they are found. If a man meets a virgin who is not engaged, and seizes her and lies with her, and they are caught in the act. If a man finds a girl who is a virgin, who is not engaged, and seizes her and lies with her, and they are discovered. If a man meets a virgin who is not betrothed, and seizes her and lies with her, and they are found. If a man finds a girl who is a virgin, who is not betrothed, and he seizes her, and lies with her, and they are found. Suppose a woman isn't engaged to be married, and a man talks her into sleeping with him. If they are caught. Now someone may want to argue that the preceding examples do not combine the two words together, as is the case with Deuteronomy 22. Hence, the use of the word tufus in conjunction with shakab in Deuteronomy implies that the sexual act was forced upon the maiden without her consent. A careful reading of both the passage itself, as well as its surrounding context, dispels such a notion. We quote the passage again, yet this time adding the surrounding context for further clarification.
But if a man finds a betrothed young woman in the countryside, and the man forces her and lies with her, then only the man who lay with her shall die. But you shall do nothing to the young woman. There is in the young woman no sin deserving of death, for just as when a man rises against his neighbor and kills him, even so is this matter. For he found her in the countryside, and the betrothed young woman cried out, but there was no one to save her. If a man finds a young woman who is a virgin, who is not betrothed, and he seizes her and lies with her, and they are found out, then the man who lay with her shall give to the young woman's father 50 shekels of silver, and she shall be his wife, because he has humbled her. He shall not be permitted to divorce her all his days.
Although verses 25 to 27 refers to a woman that is betrothed, the point is still clear. By screaming, the woman indicates that she is being forced to have sex without her consent. Hence, when the woman does not scream, this indicates that she willfully chose to engage in the sexual act with the man. This is further seen from verses 28 to 29, where both the man and the woman are held accountable, that is, and they are found out. This is unlike the woman of verses 25 to 27, who is said to be not guilty. Also notice that in verse 25 a different word is used when signifying rape, namely chazak. If the inspired author wanted to imply that the woman in verses 28 to 29 was being raped, he could have used this same word chazak, especially since this is the word he uses in the preceding verses, to refer to an actual rape incident. The fact that he did not use it should further caution us from reading rape into verses 28 to 29. This is supported by other Old Testament passages. In the places where rape is mentioned, none of them use the word tufus within a. Rather, the authors use the word chazak or some similar word within a to convey this notion.
Now Dinah the daughter of Leah, whom she had borne to Jacob, went out to see the women of the land. And when Shechem the son of Hamor the Hivite, the prince of the land, saw her, he seized her, and lay with her, and humiliated her. And his soul was drawn to Dinah the daughter of Jacob. He loved the young woman, and spoke tenderly to her. So Shechem spoke to his father Hamor, saying, Get me this girl for my wife. Now Jacob heard that he had defiled his daughter Dinah, but his sons were with his livestock in the field, so Jacob held his peace until they came. And Hamor the father of Shechem went out to Jacob to speak with him. The sons of Jacob had come in from the field as soon as they heard of it. And the men were indignant and very angry, because he had done an outrageous thing in Israel by lying with Jacob's daughter, for such a thing must not be done.
And
Then Amnon said to Tamar, Bring the food into the chamber, that I may eat from your hand. And Tamar took the cakes she had made, and brought them into the chamber to Amnon her brother. But when she brought them near to him to eat, he took hold of her, and said to her, Come, lie with me, my sister. She answered him, No, my brother, do not violate me, for such a thing is not done in Israel. Do not do this outrageous thing. As for me, where could I carry my shame? And as for you, you would be as one of the outrageous fools in Israel. Now therefore, please, speak to the king, for he will not withhold me from you. But he would not listen to her. And being stronger than she, he violated her, and lay with her. Then Amnon hated her with very great hatred, so that the hatred with which he hated her was greater than the love with which he had loved her. And Amnon said to her, Get up, go. But she said to him, No, my brother, for this wrong in sending me away is greater than the other that you did to me. But he would not listen to her. He called the young man who served him, and said, Put this woman out of my presence, and bolt the door after her. Now she was wearing a long robe with sleeves, for thus were the virgin daughters of the king dressed. So his servant put her out, and bolted the door after her. And Tamar put ashes on her head, and tore her long robe that she wore. And she laid her hand on her head, and went away, crying aloud as she went. And her brother Absalom said to her, Has Amnon, your brother, been with you? Now hold your peace, my sister. He is your brother. Do not take this to heart. So Tamar lived, a desolate woman, in her brother Absalom's house. When King David heard of all these things, he was very angry. But Absalom spoke to Amnon neither good nor bad, for Absalom hated Amnon, because he had violated his sister Tamar. But Jonadab the son of Shemaiah, David's brother, said, Let not my lord suppose that they have killed all the young men, the king's sons, for Amnon alone is dead. For by the command of Absalom this has been determined from the day he violated his sister Tamar.
notice that neither passage uses the word tuphas, providing additional support, that this word in of itself doesn't necessarily imply the use of force. It also demonstrates our point, that if the inspired author had rape in view, he could have simply used chazak, or even lakach, since these are the very words he used elsewhere, to indicate that a rape had occurred. The final line of evidence demonstrating that Deuteronomy 22:28 does not condone rape comes from Exodus.
If a man entices a virgin who is not betrothed and lies with her, he shall surely pay the bride price for her to be his wife. If her father utterly refuses to give her to him, he shall pay money according to the bride price of virgins.
Note that in this passage the word patha is used in place of tuphas. Brown Driver Briggs Hebrew Lexicon defines patha as to be spacious, be open, be wide. To be spacious or open or wide. Hifil. To make spacious, make open. To be simple, entice, deceive, persuade. To be open-minded, be simple, be naive. To be enticed, be deceived. Nifl. To be deceived, be gullible. Peel. To persuade, seduce. To deceive. Pool. To be persuaded. To be deceived. Av entice 10. Deceive 8. Persuade 4. Flatter 2. Allure 1. Enlarge 1. Silly 1. Silly 1. As can be seen, the word can mean entice, persuade, deceive, etc. The following passage uses the word in a slightly similar fashion to that of Exodus, namely how God will allure, or draw Israel back to his love.
Therefore, behold, I will allure her, will bring her into the wilderness, and speak comfort to her. I will give her her vineyards from there, and the valley of Achor as a door of hope. She shall sing there, as in the days of her youth, as in the day when she came up from the land of Egypt. And it shall be in that day, says the Lord, that you will call me my husband, and no longer call me my master. For I will take from her mouth the names of the Baals, and they shall be remembered by their name no more. In that day I will make a covenant for them, with the beasts of the field, with the birds of the air, and with the creeping things of the ground. Bow and sword of battle I will shatter from the earth, to make them lie down safely. I will betroth you to me forever. Yes, I will betroth you to me in righteousness and justice, in loving kindness and mercy. I will betroth you to me in faithfulness, and you shall know the Lord.
It is clear from the context that Exodus is referring to a man persuading or enticing a woman into having sex. Hence, this passage lends support to the fact that the woman in Deuteronomy 22:28-29 consented to the sexual act, and wasn't forced into having sex. In other words, there was no rape involved between the man and the woman. As the following study Bible puts it, 22:28-29 preceding legislation dealt with cases of rape involving a woman already married or engaged. The ruling outline here is addressed in cases of seduction, in which it is assumed that the woman was, or may have been, consenting to the sexual relationship. The fact that such a relationship had taken place was nevertheless regarded as a vital concern to the community, and therefore required that a requisite sum of money be paid to the woman's father. It is assumed that the bride's father's rights have been violated by what had taken place, and that appropriate compensation was necessary to offset the loss of the expected bride price. A further stipulation required that the couple should then marry, and that no subsequent divorce was to be permitted. In Exodus 22:16-17 the closely comparable law allows that the father need not consent to giving his daughter to the man, in which case the compensation was still to be paid to the father. 50 shekels was a significantly large amount, and may be assumed to have been equivalent to the average bride price. Or, as the late renowned Bible expositor John Gill explained it long ago, if a man find a damsel that is a virgin, which is not betrothed, that is, meets with one in a field, which is not espoused to a man, and the man is supposed to be an unmarried man, as appears by what follows, and lay hold on her, and lie with her, she yielding to it, and so is not expressive of a rape, as Deuteronomy 22:25, where a different word from this is there used, which signifies taking strong hold of her, and ravishing her by force, yet this, though owing to his first violent seizure of her, and so different from what was obtained by enticing words, professions of love, and promises of marriage, and the like, as in Exodus chapter 22 verses 16, 17, but not without her consent. And they be found in the field together, and in the fact, or however there are witnesses of it, or they themselves have confessed it, and perhaps betrayed by her pregnancy. And this is what the late great Christian philosopher and apologist Dr. Greg L. Bahnsen wrote concerning this issue. If a man finds a girl, who is an unbetrothed virgin, and he lays hold of her and lies with her, and they are found, then the man lying down with her shall give to the girl's father 50 pieces of silver, and she shall be his wife, because he has humbled her, he may not put her away all his days. This is the literal translation of the Hebrew. Unfortunately, some commentators and Bible translations make the mistake of interpreting these words as referring to the use of force and thus to raping a virgin. Such a view is quite unacceptable, for a number of reasons. 1. This would lay a burden and penalty on the woman, who had no part or consent in the act, which is as unfair and senseless as punishing the victim of attempted murder. 2. The Hebrew word tupus, lay hold of her, simply means to take hold of something, grasp it in hand, and by application to capture or seize something. It is the verb used for handling the harp and flute, the sword, the sickle, the shield, the oars, and the bow. It is likewise used for taking God's name, or dealing with the law of God. Joseph's garment was grasped, even as Moses took the 2 tablets of the law. People are caught, even as cities are captured. An adulterous wife may not have been caught in the act. In all of these instances it is clear that, while force may come into the picture from further description, The Hebrew verb to handle, grasp, capture does not in itself indicate anything about the use of force. This verb used in Deuteronomy 22:28 is different from the verb used in verse 25 chazak. From the root meaning to be strong, firm, which can mean to seize a bear and kill it, to prevail, to be strong, etc. Deuteronomy chapter 22 verse 25 thus speaks of a man finding a woman and forcing her. Just 3 verses later, the verb is changed to simply take hold of her, indicating an action less intense and violent than the action dealt with in verse 25. 3. The Hebrew word ena, humble, afflict, used in Deuteronomy 22 verse 29 can sometimes be used for forcing a woman, but need not indicate a forcible rape, which is clear from the Deuteronomy passage itself at verse 24. It can simply mean to dishonor, mistreat, or afflict, and in sexual settings can denote other kinds of sin than rape. We can agree with the reasoning of James Jordan. At first sight, this seems to allow for rape of an unbetrothed girl. In Hebrew, however, the verb seize is a weaker verb than the verb for force used in the same passage verse 25 to describe rape. This stronger verb is also used for the rape of Tamar. Implied here is a notion of catching the girl, but not a notion that she fought back with anything more than a token resistance. Modern random rape would not be excusable under this law, and would have to come under the death penalty of Deuteronomy chapter 22 verses 25 to 27. Accordingly, one will find that many competent authorities in biblical interpretation understand Deuteronomy 22:28 to 29, to apply to cases of seduction, not forcible rape. For instance, Meredith Klein, the seducer of an unbetrothed virgin, was obliged to take her as wife, paying the customary bride price, and forfeiting the right of divorce. Matthew Henry. If he and the damsel did consent, he should be bound to marry her, and never to divorce her, how much soever she was below him, and how unpleasing soever she might afterwards be to him. J. A. Thompson. Seduction of a young girl. Where the girl was not betrothed, and no legal obligations had been entered into, the man was forced to pay the normal bride price and marry the girl. He was not allowed, subsequently, to send her away. In Israel's Laws and Legal Precedents, Charles Foster Kent, professor of biblical literature at Yale University, clearly distinguished between the law pertaining to rape in Deuteronomy chapter 22 verses 25 to 27 and the law pertaining to seduction in Deuteronomy 22:28 to 29 on pages 117 to 118. Keel and Dillett classify Deuteronomy 22:28 to 29 under the category of seduction of a virgin. Comment that the crime involved was their deed, implying consent of the part of both parties, and liken this law to be like that found in Exodus chapter 22 verses 16 to 17. Alan Cole. If a man seduces a virgin, he must acknowledge her as his wife, unless her father refuses. James Jordan. The punishment for the seducer is that he must marry the girl, unless her father objects, and that he may never divorce her according to Deuteronomy chapter 22 verses 29. Walter C. Kaiser, Jr. Exodus 22:16 to 17 takes up the problem of the seduction of a maiden who is not engaged. Here the seducer must pay the bride price, and agree to marry her. In light of the foregoing, we feel the following rendering best captures the intended meaning of the passage, which has nothing to do with a woman having to marry her rapist. Suppose a woman isn't engaged to be married, and a man talks her into sleeping with him. If they are caught, they will be forced to get married. He must give her father 50 pieces of silver, as a bride price, and can never divorce her. This concludes our exegesis of Deuteronomy chapter 22 verses 28 to 29.